Everybody, and welcome back. This is part 2 of our video with Ohio Jones and the Appalachian Footpath box. I really hope you enjoy it. We're not done with it yet, but I just wanted to get these couple videos out with Ohio Jones, and I hope you're enjoying it, and I hope you're able to go to Substack Medium and follow him on there and support him. He's been really good. We're going to have him on again in the future. So stay tuned, and I really want you to enjoy this next video that I'm giving you. It's a little long, so I know some of you don't like the longer formats, but I really encourage you to watch it all and give it a shot. And if it's too long, just break it up into smaller pieces, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. So without further ado, here we go. At first I was like, the coins are commemorative. They come with the box. Seth Gold probably made them to indicate some type of movement on the box and then make a nice little pattern on the other side to commemorate the box. But now I'm switching. I'm for the first time, I think I'm looking at the coins differently. I wonder what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, I also would say I'm in a bit of transition because originally I had thought they would probably be all used in a different way. And then after the quarter hoarder interview is when I kind of switched, right? And
Yeah.
from there, I'm kind of leaning more towards they may all be used in the same way. Not only that, but I feel like I'm behind here, right? Because a lot of people have been saying this from the beginning, and I think I was maybe a bit dismissive.
Yeah.
But I really do think like the way that they look here with the intersections and the circles and all that, it very well could be, as he mentions too in the interview, right? People may be overlooking certain aspects of this, and it may be simpler. Could just be, hey, this is an intersection of two trails, and I circle where it's at.
That's a good point, but what are your thoughts on Seth Gold design these? Like, what kind of input would JCP have to give him not to tip him off as a clue? Or he said, hey, this is something I would like to look at or see on these coins, but not tell him what he's going to use it for.
Right.
And then go ahead.
Has anybody asked him that? I feel like didn't someone on one of the Discords ask Seth Gold recently? I don't remember the response.
Yeah, it was on Treasure Hunt with Us. I think they asked him about it, and he said everything can be used in there. He sort of tap danced around that.
Okay.
He didn't specifically directly answer that. He answered it under an umbrella as anything within the book could be useful or something to that effect.
Answered it by punting, basically.
Yeah. So he didn't address it specifically. And then under that logic, you could say, well, the box itself could be a clue too, which it possibly could. Anything.
Right. But that falls to because I know a lot of people with the past and future, right? There are 5 clues in this word search. There also happens to be 5 things you have to do to open the box. From there, people have kind of extrapolated a bit, but how much input did Seth get from John on the number of, hey, make this one open with 4 moves? I think they could, both the coin and the box, if you're looking for them 4 clues, can kind of both run into that same roadblock.
It's a good point. But again, he could have just designed his clues based upon what he had. Like Seth could have done them in 1 movement, 2 movements, 3 movements. Doesn't really matter. Once he got them, he's like, okay, well, this one has X amount of movements. I'm gonna incorporate this into it, and that's why I'm thinking with the coins. Well, yeah, Seth, it could have been anything on these coins, not a line with a hook on it. It could have been, I don't know, some type of symbol on it. or anything, and he could have incorporated that into the solve anyway. He just
Right.
happened to use this pattern. Like JCP could have given him some really high level guidance on what would be nice or something, and just went with whatever he got.
Yeah. So you think it's kind of an order of operations, uh, so to speak, where he makes the box first. Hey, it has these components, and then JCB makes the solve based around that.
Or adds the components to it, right? Like
Okay.
JCP
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
have
I just want
already
to make
had
sure.
he could have already had an idea. Now, for example, with the past and future, where the angle looks like the outline of the state, that could have been coincidental, or not have anything to do with it at all. If it was intentional, then if he was already gonna, if it were in that area and he was already gonna put it there, that would have been like coincidental that he made the thing look like similar to it, not exact. Um, but I think he designed these coins, and then JCB, the order of operation, right? Design the coins, JCB, like, okay, I'm going to incorporate this um, somehow. And it doesn't even have to be equally. These could mean different things for different boxes too,
And
right?
then just a general question, then I guess
Mhm.
for you: do you think that all of them are used for a solve in the box, or maybe one of them are used for a solve, maybe two of them?
Well, I mean, initially you would like to think that all of them are going to be used, but it could be anything. Personally, man, I would like to go with the school of thought now that, yeah, these coins have something to do with each box. Now, whether or not it's the same theme, like this is a directions off a trail, or this indicates something else. I mean, logically, I would think it would be like that, but he may have used each one differently, and I think that's something to consider at least. Like if you're going to say, yes, I'm now going to look at these, now this changes dynamics of your solve. Like it's another variable to throw in what I need to figure out. Now you don't need all of them, right? But somehow it has to line up within your way of looking at it, right? So whatever you pull in as a potential clue, it's like playing the lottery, right? Is once you add that Powerball number, your odds now drop exponentially by
Mhm.
one number, right? So if you add another component, now that's either, that's got to somehow work. I would think that would somehow have to work within your solve.
Right. It kind of brings up another question, I guess, is that when you're working on solves, because I don't do this. Okay, I'm a person who doesn't do this, and I probably should.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're like working on a solve, how often do you bring the coin into that when you're looking at something? Because again, admittedly for myself, I kind of, it's out of my brain. I look at, kind of focus on the map. Um, and I'm probably wrong for that, but I was just wondering for yourself, how much weight does it carry in a solve?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's minimal to rare, only because recently I've considered it. And the times that I would use it, that to me, it would be one of those things like how I design my solves is when I'll get the high level first, right? And I'll try to break it down to a state. Like what in here is pointing me to a specific state. Once I feel I get to that, then I'll start adding, okay, what area of the state? Now with the AT box, we know what area it's going to be in, or general area. And then I'll focus on that. But like on another box, I'll be like, okay, what part of the state could this be? Sometimes if I'm at a total loss, I'll scan all the national parks, national forests, or anywhere that could possibly be a place where it could be potentially hidden, right? And then I'll I'll start looking for things that point me into other areas. And it won't necessarily be names because he's not going to name out an area. I think they're going off words that could possibly wordplay it, you know, to get you even to a more precise location. Then I'll start pulling in things like, once I get to a actual trail or a park or a forest, then it gets to, okay, what part of these line up, like, or what part are supposed to line up? Because when he says that, um, this chapter can bring you pretty close to the box. When I think pretty close, it means it's going to get you within a distance that you can grid search and find. What am I looking for in this book that's going to tell me that? Because you go boots on the ground, I have a problem with GPS, Garmin or whatever, or all trails to get me to a place. How am I going to come close enough to grid search based on what information's in this chapter? I mean, I don't know.
Right.
How do you look at it that way?
Yeah, no, it's a very similar way that
what gets you to boots on the ground, and then what do you use to guide you boots on the ground?
yeah, for myself, well, again, when I went, and my key was, I was hoping anyways that once on the ground I would find some kind of confirmation. uh, for instance, the tree and the magnifying glass would really stick out on the trail that I had chose, like without a doubt, without me trying to say that looks kind of like the tree. When I'm there, it's going to scream, hey, I'm the tree. And that didn't happen for me, right, when I was there. So
Wyatt Bald did that for me. Like, my heart was beating. I'm like, just
yeah.
exactly like the tree. But so then, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like you were saying though, once you get down to, hey, I'm at this spot, I do agree with what you were saying is it has to be pretty exact, because even when it's exact, you're gonna have to do a grid search, which is going to be probably a bit painstaking. Yeah. Right? It's going to take a lot of marking off, keeping track of where you have and haven't searched, having somebody with you, maybe you're coming back multiple times, especially depending on how exact is exact, right? Like, what size grid does it leave you with? A football field, a half a football field, 20 yards by 20 yards.
Now, do you take into consideration the landscape? Like whether or not it's a potential even to grid search it?
I do, just in terms of the safety aspect.
What about as far as outside of a safety aspect, if it's overrun with brush and foliage, will you still muscle through the jungle to look, or is that a no-go for you?
That's a tough one. I guess that's a bit of a call I'd have to make when I get there. It's kind of a how thick, right? If I think it's reasonable that it could be there, I would go. If I'm like, this has been overgrown and nobody has been here, I don't know, maybe ever, I'm likely to not be the first person to blaze my trail, right? But if it seems reasonable that somebody's been through that area and that I could make it through there, then I think it's fair game, as long as you can still see the trail.
Now, do you factor in the time of year? Because in the summertime, it's going to be overgrown. For instance, on our hike through Wyatt Bald, in that time of year, there's no way I was going to even attempt to walk through all the brush to get to something. But now in the fall or winter time, minus snow, it's going to be wide open. Do you take that into consideration? How
I didn't until just now, because I think that's a great point.
That was something that went through my mind. It's like, do I now well, I want to be respectful for the ground, and I don't want to mess it all up, right? We need to be good stewards of the trail. But, as I look around, I'm thinking maybe hit it here. Then I'm thinking, well, no, because if somebody walked through here, even casually in the wintertime, and it wasn't snow on the ground, you would see it obviously sitting there. So I would look for rock structures or something that Mother Nature could not alter, minus a catastrophic event, right? Like for instance, if it was a tree trunk, well, that could be um, uh, easily affected by weather, and it wouldn't take a catastrophic event to do that. You know, but as far as like brush goes, if it's really heavy in brush, and I don't see anything within eyes distance, if I can't see anything within my side of vision that could possibly harbor a box, then maybe that's not a good way of looking at it. But to me, it's like if not, it's going to be literally impossible to. Then you really have to find granular things in here that says this is a place you need to now exit the trail and go hunt 300 feet off the trail. Right.
If we reverse engineer when the boxes were hidden, do we know what season they were hidden in? I guess just kind of you bringing that up made me think in my head, is was he likely to have hidden them in the fall? Or I know he did some of those interviews after he had hid the boxes, right, on that
Yeah,
American
American
Treasure
Treasure, Dave
podcast.
Dave Colonna. This may be controversial. Let me say it. I really have to be careful, but in my interpretation, when he said, because I forgot what episode it was, Dave said, had him on there, and he said he was going to timestamp the different clips that he talked to him with, and one was in October of 2022 or 2023, and he says, "Yep, I've hid the boxes, or at least alluded to hidden two of them." So I'm assuming, and this is my assumption, that it was hidden in the summertime or late summer,
Okay.
which would make sense for ease of it, because depending on which box and which location, if it is high elevations, you're safe in summertime. Um, I know you could go up the mountains up until June and still be snow, depending on how high. I mean, you go all year round and be snow on top, depending on how high it is. But I think it would be in summertime. So, which leaves me to believe that I'm not going to have to take a machete and cut through brush to get to the location. And that's important, because when you start looking for off trail, and this ties in with Appalachian Footpath, because this is at least a trail we know, um, whereabouts how it's going to look, um, at least in a worst case scenario, because there are parts of the trail that just go over out in big open fields. Um, but at least this could give us an idea on where we need to be looking, you know.
Right. Yeah, that's why as soon as you started bringing up time of year, that's what, or
Yeah.
where I would look. And then I didn't even think of seasonality for some
Yeah.
reason. I just thought, but yeah, great point, I think. And that kind of limits hiding places,
Yeah.
right?
And then when he says, then we have to think, without going down too much rabbit hole, he says, you're not going to find it with snow on the ground. Now, did he say that to keep everybody safe and say, just don't bother looking when there's snow on the ground? Because you know what? I don't want that on my hands if you get hurt. Or is it exclusive to how he hid the box, where snow would literally make it impossible to find? Because if, and these are all big ifs, but something to consider, he has it in a Pelican type box, right? And it's not buried, it's hidden somewhere. Snow, it would have to be close to the ground, right? and it couldn't be protruding up really high if he's worried about a couple inches of snow, right? Because
Yeah.
he didn't say, he said this if there's snow on the ground. He didn't say if you had like foot of snow on the ground, right? And that makes, I know it's start picking at nit here, but it does make a valid question, pose a valid question on why is he saying that? Is it from a pure safety perspective, or is it hidden in a way that snow would be a factor of being able to find it? And if so, that means it would have to be close to the ground, right? And that
Yeah. Yeah.
changes how you can hide something that large. Even though boxes are small, it's another case, more than likely, you know, how is it being hidden?
Right. That's what I was gonna say. Because I guess I kind of assumed they are all on the ground, right? Or like you're saying, close
Yeah.
to the ground.
If it wasn't on the ground, and you do have people think that could be hidden in trees, and hey, whatever. Um, why would snow matter, right?
Right.
So that could tell me that it is close to the ground, and is not hidden eyesight up, eye height, or even waist height in a rock formation,
But
because snow
I
would
know
naturally come off it, right?
if it were dangling from a tree in an all black box, it would make it much easier to find in the wintertime, I would think. It's still on the
Yeah,
ground.
make it easier to find anytime, right? You take a thermal gun on it because the heat it picks up being black. You can easily take an IR gun and just sweep the trail as you go and find it.
Hmm.
You know,
I think what and rock crevices and things like that. And generally, that's what I read. A lot of people also seem to think, and that's where my mind goes because it's easy to obscure, right? Because it's
Mhm.
not buried, but it does have to be hidden. I mean, is like right behind a tree good enough? I don't know. I guess the original Fen box, right, was found not too far off of a road and next to a log, apparently. So
It was
maybe
also
that's all it
buried
has
though.
to be.
Yeah, it was also buried too.
Oh, that yeah,
When I think of hidden behind a tree, I think of your basic rule of hiking if you have to use a bathroom. They say take 1 to 200 feet off the trail to do that, right? That was in the back of my mind when I was searching for the AT box. And if you put it behind a tree, that would be relatively easy to stumble upon. If, or even if you're a park ranger and they wanted to look for something or whatever, or they're combing, or they're looking at trees to potentially remove because they pose a hazard, they're dying or whatever. Because sometimes they'll adjust, they'll make decisions whether to cut down certain things. So to me, that's why I leave that out. And then I saw like a big rhododendron tree, right? Oh, maybe it'd be near. Well, in the winter time, what does that tree look like? Is it that thick and full of brush, right? Or could you physically see it when? Because there's people that walk the trail all year round. Um,
right. And
you know,
whether they're looking for the treasure or not, and he doesn't want the point is to hide it so somebody who's looking for the treasure is
yeah.
the one who
You have
finds
to
it.
think. You have to think that when you're looking for it, it's not going to accidentally be found. So when you're looking, you're not going to go, "Oh wow, was that the box that I saw?" It's going to require effort, right? And this is something people need to keep in the back of their mind when they're looking. If is it going to be obvious to somebody not looking, right? Or accidentally stumble upon. Like I would never check near a shelter on the Appalachian Trail. People camp there, and what do
Yeah.
people do when they in the middle of the night when they're bored or going to roam around, use a bathroom, whatever? It's not going to be within a shelter, so we could sort of knock that one out. But then it goes back to, well, what if it's in a rock, hidden up in a rock? Well, in the snow, unless he says it's snow because he doesn't want people to get hurt or whatever. Is snow going to play a factor if it's hidden between a couple rocks? Rocks attract heat in the daytime. Snow melts on rocks. Generally, you don't unless you're up in the mountains. You're not going to see a lot of snow on smaller rock formations, right?
Right. And then again, we're out to the it sticks out kind of problem.
Right. So it would be, that's why I think when the first one's found, not only the solve is going to play a big part. Well, with at least with the solve, it could be written differently, right? With how it was hidden, what it was hidden in, those are the things I'm going to focus on first. Yes, I'll focus on the reveal of the solve. It'll be important. But what is equally important, if not possibly more important, is how he hid it, where he decided to hide it, and in what container and what method he used. Because to me, that's going to help guide you into the right location to finding a box.
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna you answered it before I could ask it. I'd say, what do you think would be more important after the first solve? Finding out what it's hidden in and what we're looking for, or just kind of more the way he thinks?
How
And
it's hidden,
don't
right?
right. And don't get me wrong, I want to know the way he thinks, and I would like to know the solve as well. But he's not going to use the same solve. So
No,
I'm
he's
working
not.
on a different puzzle here. I would like to know what I'm actually looking for.
Yeah, because you think about it, when he writes his solves, he's going to know that one box is going to be found first, right? Obviously,
Right.
and is when you have to go try, put yourself in his shoes. Well, if I did this, then is it going to make it exponentially easier to find the other ones? No, he says after two boxes are found. So I think once you find more than one box is revealed, then you're going to start seeing the patterns. Like he's probably chosen a couple methods of hiding clues to the point where if you one box solve is out there, then it's not enough because if you found the AT box and it's not really going to line up with a Forrest Fenn box, right? You can get into his mind a little bit. And that's why I think it's more important to find out how he hit it, where he hit it. I think to me, that's going to be a bigger tell, at least until the second, third, and fourth box are found. Like the first box, I'm going to focus more on the specifics of the box location than the solve. Not saying I'm not going to focus on the solve, but focus more on that. Then, as the other boxes are found, then we could start picking up, because then you have validation. Second box found, boom. Wow, that was oddly similar to where how he hid the box on the first one, right? Whereas the clues might be a little different. Well, clues you could be like, well, yeah, he used anagram these things, like clues in a past future box could be completely different, 180 degrees different than the Appalachian Trail, right?
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask you that too, because I kind of think I don't want to make it a hard rule for myself, but
Right.
I'll just use this as an example, right? I think if he uses a kind of component in a solve, let's say in the Pokemon box, there's a Caesar cipher. I would say, hey, it's probably unlikely he's used a Caesar cipher in a different chapter. Or I guess other people may say, oh, he used one here, so let's check for that in other. But to me, I kind of think once a component is used, it's probably not likely it'll be used in another chapter solve.
Yeah.
I guess. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I before this book came out, before October, November, when I first heard about it last year, I had zero clue. I was so intimidated even to pick this book up. I was like, I told my wife, I said, there is no way I'm going to figure this out. I don't think this way, right? I've never done this. I don't do games. I have friends that do different games and stuff like that that are way too complex for me because I feel like an idiot, I'll play Yahtzee. My wife and I play Yahtzee every day, right? After I get home from work, we have a routine because it's simple and it's fun. But then once I started looking at it and digesting it and going into it, things started to pick up on me. So back to my point, ciphers, other than like secret decoder ring around when you watch Christmas Story, that was probably the extent of what I knew about it. I mean, I understand what ciphers are, but I mean, I never really had to apply them. So that's why I get a little intimidated by certain chapters that people lean towards cipher, like past and future. And that's why I focus more on other parts of it, because he said there's a lot of clues. You don't need them all, at least in the lion's share. But in the other one, in the part two, he said he has said, well, there's more to that chapter than the word search, right? Because again, I don't think in the word search, if you magically interpret it the correct way, it's going to say, you need to go to XYZ state on this trail, this trailhead, turn left, turn right. They're not going to, the solutions, I don't think, are going to be that clear. So you need to pick up things that can point to it. Like, I heard this on Mysterious Writings. I subscribe to their thing finally, because I really find a lot of value in it now. I had seen it and they had mentioned it too on the Appalachian Trail when they say 14 states, Vermont's a 14th state. Like, those are the type of things I'm to look at to get me to start narrowing it down, like I talked about earlier. And then after we get down to the state, now there's something else in this chapter that's going to put me to which, Klingman's Dome, or, which I still think is a strong possibility. I just haven't revisited because, there's so much stuff to cover and I don't have any more vacation days left. But, I think that's what's going to point us to that. And I know I got off topic from what you asked me, but.
Oh yeah, I think that there's definitely something hidden in this text. Like there has to be. I would be pretty shocked if once this is solved and a solution comes out, and we find that the entire text is worthless. Like that does not make sense to me.
Well, that being said, we sort of talked about the coin, but now in the text of the chapter, what parts are you looking at? I looked at, Robert Motherwell was from Greenwich, Connecticut. He lived there. That sort of was like a thing. But then again, you have all the other adjectives that you use to describe different things in here. Are you looking at on the first page of the Footpath? What are you looking at as far as potential wordplay there?
Yeah, so I think we touched on this a little last time, is that the extremely descriptive paragraph with the smell of the dogwoods and the rhododendron, and that is one that just sticks with me. That, again, I don't know exactly what to make of it, but it's always in the back of my mind as how can I work this later? But immediately following that, this is one that I've had for a while, and I forget if we have discussed this before or not, but it's I see that even back then, a part of me realized something about the Appalachian Trail before I was consciously aware of it. This would be a magical place to leave a treasure. And I take that as a place I actually walked in my teenage years is the place where I put it.
Yeah.
That's something that I'm reading into it, but I've read it that way, I don't, probably not since the first time I read it, but early on when I was scanning the chapter for clues.
Yeah.
And then one other thing I was thinking, and I don't know what to make of this either, but it just, the more I read it, the more um, weird it sounds to me. So I'd like to know if you had this one marked for yourself, but it's just the should I have made the path to this treasure location less obvious? Like for some reason, the less obvious, like it sounds sarcastic because it's not obvious, right? None of us have found it. People have been
Yeah.
looking all over the place for it,
Yeah.
so it seems like there may be something hidden in there. It's kind of like a sarcastic jab, maybe.
Yeah. I went back and forth on that one. And it's funny because my wife now and I do the perhaps, but what's done is done. And if she asks me, hey, can you have done that? Something, whatever, I always answer perhaps, but what's done is done.
Yeah.
It's a running joke that we have now. That's important, that two things. One, you said that this would be a magical place to leave the treasure. And I also asked my wife this morning, when they also say mystical, oftentimes, sometimes mystical trail. And I said, is mystical and magical the same thing? And I ask her because she's removed from this. I mean, she's deep into the part one with me, but not on these. And this is a sort of different way of thinking about it. And she, yeah, they're similar, obviously, but I mean, it could be looked at as similar. So is that a pattern that bears repeating? Because, this is such a short chapter. Um, they're they have to be. You would think they would be cleverly hidden. I shouldn't say they have to be because then I have my own bias on this. But is that something we need to look at, that wording? And like you said, perhaps could I have hidden it any easier? And don't judge it too harshly. Now I've heard people say the judge part, right? Is it a judge or yeah, that could be, but you got to think when things pop out, that's great to find them, but you're not done yet. How does that? It's like I hear people, and I often do it myself. It's like this is a clue, but what do I do with this clue? That's don't judge it too. Is it tied to a judge? Well, you got to step back and think realistically. If it is, what without accidentally plugging and chugging, or I like to refer to it as like playing pool. I used to play pool a long time ago. Are we playing slop pool, or is hitting the rack and whatever ball goes in, we're going to call it a win? Or are we calling the shot, right? So
Right.
so how would that fit in? How would judge fit in? Like, is there a specific judge? Are we looking for his hometown? Are we looking for where he got married? Are we looking for where he bought his first puppy? How would we use that?
Right. Yeah, that's another one that stuck with me too. That I'm the same. I ask you to not judge it harshly. Yeah, I don't know. That's another weird one that always sticks out for me.
What really sticks out to me though, and it's been bothering me to the point where it's keeping me up at night thinking about it, um, is how each chapter he goes in such detail to talk about the box and how many movements it takes, and this one specifically exact instructions. And that's what made me think about this one more. Is this is the only one that where he says he gives you the exact instructions to open it. The other ones he just says I give you instructions how to open it. To me, that there's something, and I don't know what, in that section, because he says that he dedicates a part, especially in this, since this is such a short chapter. Why would he even bother talking about it, taking up more words and explaining in detail on how that how the box is made and the movements to open it, and don't break it. I gave you instructions, exact instructions. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've always liked the word exact being in there as
Yeah.
well. I thought this because it seems like it should pinpoint something for us. Again, if we're reading into this, a question I would love to ask John when all this is over is was it funny watching people like you and I sit here and say,
Yeah.
he can't use that word exact, right? Unless it means, and he's like, no, it doesn't. But so there's a million of these discussions going on.
Did
But
you
I
ever
think
note?
much,
Go ahead.
oh yeah, no, I was going to say kind of like you were saying before about like we have a clue and what do we do with it. Much like a, let's say you're a detective, right? Well, what do you do when you get a clue? You track it down, you run it down, and sometimes those turn into false leads. And they're nothing, but it's your job still to take that
Yeah.
clue until its logical end to see like, does it do anything? Does it mean something? Sometimes we set up a tip hotline and people call in with crazy tips. We got to run them down anyways. And that's
Right.
kind of how I
Yeah.
look at our job here, right? Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of many of these things that we've discussed here is like, hey, they could be nothing, but we need to run them down, do our proper investigation, and then say, okay, that's a false lead. Let me see if I can find something better here.
Yeah, you made a lot of good points in there. I like the whole this we are all like a tip line. Like this whole community is a tip line,
Right.
and writing things down. This plays into on when you do escape rooms, you want to have like a manager or a lead that takes all these things and writes them down and categorizes them, right? Because what we talk about may not give you, I don't, we don't do videos and you don't write articles saying this is where you need to go. It's like, this is the thought process of doing this. And this is really important because brainstorming on your own isn't brainstorming, right? The whole idea of brainstorming is getting a collective group of people together and throwing things out and writing them all down on a whiteboard. Like that is like the holistic way of looking at it, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly. Or
and
somebody, I would say people building upon other people's ideas.
yeah, yeah, and back to and then we wouldn't pick up things like we talk about. And you know JCB is so nebulous when he talks about things. He's like, yeah, well, it's pretty much this, or yeah, basically that. But on this is the only place I've heard him say exact. Do you ever think about that? It's like
Right.
when asked in interviews and he goes, well, and I basically admitted to you that the treasure is somewhere along the Appalachian Trail. Like, that's not clear. That's like,
Yeah.
you know, talking to a kid and asking if he stole a cookie from the cookie jar. Possibly, you know, and throughout the book, that's his theme. But here he said, I give you the exact things to open it. And that's why
The
it
other
jumped out at me. Right.
the other thing you just pointed out, I think, really makes it good, and that's that he goes from exact to the wishy-washy stance of, well, basically,
Yeah, and it
I need
stands out
to,
even more. It's like,
yeah, that's a good second point, I think, to help hammer that part home.
yeah,
Because
and I again, going back to what we said before, it's like I don't know what to do with it, but it is something that I'm now going to keep, sort of teach my brain how to think this way and say, okay, how is that going to play in? What does it look like? You know, because when you start going back and forth from the now the coin that we talk about, then the text, and then how does that apply to the map? I would love to ask him, and I think we talked about this before, is in any of the chapters in part 2, could you solve it, reasonably have enough information to reasonably solve it without using the poem, the map, the word search, or the picture in the Pokemon? Could you theoretically, and it not being a stretch, solve it without using that secondary component of the chapter, for lack of better terms? You know,
right, even asking it the opposite way would be interesting too, right?
exactly.
Like
Could you?
if I
Yeah,
have only the map, could I solve it without the text?
yeah,
You know,
yeah. I mean, I know the answer he'd give you. It would be very vague, right? Well, theoretically, right? Well,
the
sure.
whole
If you
chapter's fair game.
Yeah, if you're the author of it, then yeah, it would be very easy to, it's like pick a number 1 to 10. Why weren't you thinking of seven? It was in my head,
Yeah.
thing. We can't read his mind, but that's why I'd say realistically, would somebody be able to solve it if, like, say I got my book and my dog ripped out the page with maps at, could I still have a shot at finding it or get relatively close to it? I'd be happy to get within 10 miles of it, to be honest. You
What do you
know,
think the answer is to that? Do you have a guess or?
I do. I don't know if it's because that's what I want to believe or not, but I honestly do think that you can do one without the other, only because not a, he had said he written this for many types of people. And again, he wrote this, and we talked about this about, accessing it on the trails. Do you have to be somebody that can navigate off trail and find their way back or be in great physical shape? You know, there are outliers that can do that. But the majority of the hundreds of thousands of people that bought this book, you know, probably won't be able to do a lot of that stuff. So he's gonna write this. Not He's gonna make it difficult because there's millions of dollars of the treasure hidden, and he wants everybody to have a great experience finding it. So he's gonna make it hard, right? But he's not gonna make it impossible because he wants it solved. He wants it found. That's why he did it. He didn't do it to say, if you don't find it by this time, game over. I take the treasure and go home. The whole purpose of writing this book is to give away all this treasure. All right. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you're able to sit through and watch the whole thing and really get to see what we're talking about. So if you want to see more of the Appalachian Footpath box and more discussions with Ohio Jones, leave me a comment and we'll put it together. But until then, we're going to continue to be working on the box together and collaborate on it. And if we have anything breaking, we'll go ahead and post it up for you to see. So with that, I thank you very much for watching. Stay safe, stay curious, and stay tuned.